Welcome back, guys. So, just like I promised, I've watched the entire episode of Joe Rogan with Tim Kennedy. Now, the video is about 2 hours long almost. And what I did is I watched it all and mushed it up into the relevant parts that I think will be interesting to my viewers. And I'm going to leave it here for you so you can enjoy them. Yeah. So, without further ado, let's jump in. Very, very brilliant, interesting podcast.
I'm disappointed, but I'm not confused when you know the powers and the money that is being spent to try to destabilize America. When you look at our enemies, when you're looking at China, when you're looking at Russia, when you're looking at Iran, and the hundreds of millions of dollars they're spending in misinformation and disinformation, where they are perpetuating things that we 100% know to be not true, not factual, but they are very effectively. It's unnerving. Joseph Goebbels, the propaganda minister for Hitler, he had a playbook about how to spin truth and how to manipulate masses. How could you take what is a great, cool culture like the Germans were post-World War I, as they're trying to find their identity and they're trying to bounce back from a horrific war, and then by the mid-30s and late 30s, they're positioning to throw Jews into ghettos and then ultimately gas 6 million of them. How can that happen so fast? And you very quickly realize that it was an effective propaganda misinformation campaign where they were able to dehumanize and segregate certain aspects or ideas and then attach a name to those things and a face to those things and a people to those things. We saw it here during COVID, the unvaccinated.
Yeah.
And it happened fast. It happened in months. And the same way that police were demonized during the defund law enforcement and BLM movement. Now we know to be a complete hoax, a bunch of liars that manipulated truth and data and what really happened. And are there injustices? Absolutely. Are we a perfect nation? Totally not. Is law enforcement perfect? No, for sure.
It's crazy how things went down so fast during COVID and then after. It became so much easier to split a society into two and then make you believe that the other side is just completely an evil side or an ignorant side or a dangerous side. Anyone who's not wearing a mask, is evil. Anyone who's not doesn't want to take the third, fourth, fifth booster is evil. I had a friend of mine, she took like 4 vaccine shots for the anti-corona and none of them made a difference. And then she wanted to go to a restaurant and her husband got so upset because she was refusing to take the 5th shot and they would not let you go to a restaurant if you don't have the 5th booster, super uber booster shot. And he was really calling her, because of you, we're all going to die. Because of you, because of you, this is never ending. And she just told him, listen, man, my period is not coming regularly. I'm feeling weird with my body. I still want to have more children. I'm not a test bunny. I took the first one, the second one, the third one, the fourth one. Come on, this is insane. All in about half a year time. Just like going mad. He was just so angry and felt very comfortable because they're good friends. And, I don't want to step my boundaries. That's his wife, but she's my friend. I just tried to tell him, listen, man, I think she had a point here, but he got really upset and I couldn't talk to him as well. So how easily did we become a society easily manipulated by, call it, elites who just want to unleash us on each other? Black Lives Matter showed that so good. It was a complete hoax and it burned half a country down. And then later on, pro-Palestine, that's like, a hoax that been going on for a very long time. And I think Americans in general are more receptive to that. They're just more easily manipulated, if I think about it. I mean, yes, in Europe as well, you see that in Israel, everywhere, but I think in America, it's just, going from one extreme to another. Although it might be just one certain group, because if you think about it, the same people that were wearing masks during the COVID and were like fanatic and religious about it are still going out with their masks to the Black Lives Matter demonstration, and they were still going out with their masks to the pro-Palestine demonstration. You still see people go to the pro-Palestine demonstration today with masks on their face. So it looks like it's just the same group of people that is just kind of moving from one camp to another, a bunch of anarchists and very, very grumpy young people, frustrated. They just want to go take their anger at something.
But by and large, the vast majority do want to do good. Like it says, protect and serve, and that's what they raise their hand to do. But they're being destroyed by this misinformation campaign. And Russia and China want it. They want us to be fighting each other. They want pro-Palestinian protests. They want pro-Hamas protests. They want from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. That is a call for genocide. They're calling for, so the river, the Jordan River, which is on the east side of all of Israel, the sea, the Mediterranean. In between those two things is where Israel lies. 7.4 million Jews.
He said something very interesting there. Russia and China, they want that. They want the pro-Palestine demonstration. They want the Corona demonstrations in your cities, the Black Lives Matter, because they see you as their enemies. Now, you would want to support and promote anything that will cause anarchy and division in a society. You're not going to have people who want to go and just, peacefully demonstrate regarding all kind of topics, and they're doing it peacefully. They're not going to get supported by the enemy, because if you think about it, if you're the enemy and you have that country, think, how can I destroy them from within? Let's see who is the weak links there. Let's see which is the most controversial things and who are the most anarchist community in that society. Let's funnel our attention to them and get them to destroy that country and burn it from inside. So when you start thinking, sometimes you need to go out of the box and think, how would the enemy react? Or how would I react if I was doing that to my enemy? That would help you suddenly see things more clearly. Who are probably the target crowd, targeted group of the enemies, and why is this happening to them? And hopefully, when you start seeing that, if you find yourself accidentally there, you don't want to be tricked by the enemy to destroy your own country that is a good country. There is countries in the world that are just by default good nations to live in. And one of them is definitely the US. Many places in Europe, Australia, New Zealand, Canada. There's places that are just genuinely good place to live. The quality of life there is amazing, and the attention to human rights and to your needs and the needs of many minorities in that society is amazing. And even though you have a problem with many policies that you might have, you still don't want to be a useful idiot used by the enemy to destroy that country from within. And once you realize that they're actually literally doing that, then you should jump out of that wagon. You don't want to be there.
They want that to not exist. They want no Jews to be there. So every time that you hear from the river to the sea, it is a call for genocide or an expulsion of all Jews out of Israel. And that is the call of Hamas. And guess who's paying for that thing to be seen on Cornell and in Harvard and in that's right, Russia and China. They're being manipulated by a bunch of our enemies as they're trying to destabilize us in a region and here in the United States.
And it's a vulnerability that we have because of our freedom.
Yeah.
I kind of blame Israel for this one, and I'll explain before all of you jump on me. The call from the river to the sea was known for a very long time that is a call for genocide. And why? Because it literally started as a call for genocide. When they came to annihilate the Jewish state and kill all the Jews, that's the wording they used. We're going to come and we're going to eliminate them from the river to the sea, which there's only one Jewish nation on the face of this earth. So that's basically killing all the Jews. And unless they run away somewhere, and then they also said they're going to hunt them over there. So that was clear a call for genocide. However, Israel kind of ignored it and said, these guys are crazy. And that became very trendy in the West, and they didn't know that it was a call for genocide. Here's the thing. Most people that go and chant from the river to the sea, they don't mean we want to kill all the Jews. We want to do what the Nazis failed. Most people I genuinely believe don't mean that. But what they think is that this is the call to stand with the oppressed against the oppressor. So it's like going around and saying stuff like, Nazi Germany kind of slogans, thinking that you're helping women's rights. It was one of the biggest manipulation in our modern days history to get so many young people to believe that they're fighting for a good cause while they're actually calling for a genocide. That is mind-blowing. And when I meant that Israel is at fault here, because Israel should have woke up way earlier and realized the potential of the danger that this might be doing and started calling it out when it was going on in the West. But we kind of ignored it and we said, everybody's going to see that this is just insane. And surprise, surprise, not everybody's seeing that this is just insane.
Yeah, but man, I love freedom.
I love it.
I do.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
That's why I moved here.
I love the way that freedom would work was that there was an educated, empowered citizen that was individually responsible for themselves and their family. And they were in a position of authority over the government. That's how that document worked, our beautiful Bill of Rights and the Constitution. It was because of the power of the people. And over the past 50, 60 years, our people have become fat, gelatinous, complacent, uneducated, subscribe to propaganda, radicals, aligned with agendas that are not pro-America. And in the course of this time, it makes that document have no teeth, right? There's nothing behind it, because the government used to be scared of the people, because the people, when we decided to throw some tea in a harbor and the shot heard around the world, we went after the people that were attacking us and that were controlling us, and we killed them and we pushed them off this land. And then we wrote these founding documents that said the individual is going to maintain the power. The people are going to have the power.
That is so true. And I say that quite often in my videos. Governments should be afraid of their people, not people of their governments. If you look back in history, the biggest criminals in the history of mankind were governments. Yes, you had local people that committed crime against their neighbors, or gangs that committed crime against, another population, or another gang, sometimes even small militias. But when a government is committing a crime, the scale of that crime and the devastation that it leaves behind it in every possible way, against humans, against nature, against you name it, is just unheard of. When governments commit crimes, they end up starting world wars and slavery and, like shipping slaves to different continents around the world, kidnapping slaves. It's just insane the level of crime that a government can commit. And that's why it is important that government should be afraid of their people, not people of the government. Because once you choose to be in a group and you say, this is my elected officials and they're going to lead me and all of my friends here, and we're going to pay taxes to it, and we're going to abide by these rules, you're just giving so much power to a very selected group of people. And if they can't be held accountable, then even the best of them can fall into the temptation of power and of corruption. And then, oh boy. Here's the thing, the Bible is full of kings. And there's a lot of Jews today that want to bring back, the old days of the Bible, with kings. And I say, you look at the Bible and you see how many good kings were they compared to how many bad kings. It's the good kings you can count on one hand, basically, compared to all the bad kings that happened, and how much trouble and grief did they bring on the people of Israel. So that's a problem with having too much power in the hand of the government or in the hand of a king. Because, okay, one government is good, but then what happens when his children come to power? And we know that rich people, successful people, kings are not very good at raising their kids. And they tend to be complete cow poop, camel tusi guys. Camel ass. Yeah, I didn't want to use bad words here. But anyway, you get my point. Government should be afraid of their people, not people should be afraid of the government. Otherwise, you can't hold accountable. Otherwise, you create tyranny. That's it.
But the only way that works is if the people have power. And we've let that go. Bit by bit, diet by diet, day by day, lack of exercising of our God-given rights. We are now just soft. It's one of the reasons when I was kicking around with you, like, hey, do we really want to talk about this? This is tough. Like, I have 25 pages of notes here about the Middle East conflict. But ultimately, I'm scared that can happen here because we are so vulnerable right now as people. And it's the reason that Sheepdog Response exists. My company is to train the American individual to take their own security.
That is so true. To think that this cannot happen in the US or anywhere is such a ignorant, naive way of thinking. I mean, look at Syria. It fell down completely. An entire country fell down in 2 weeks, just disappeared. Like literally the government doesn't exist anymore. It's not Syria anymore. It's Al-Qaeda land. Nazi Germany got radicalized in several years to the point that they were literally taking children and women into gas chambers, separating babies from their mothers. It's just insane. The horrific crimes that happen in Nazi Germany are just insane. But to think that this can't happen to you in the US, or this can't happen to you in, in Europe, in Germany again, just because you're a good person, or think you're a good person is so dangerously naive. You need to have very clear ways to protect your culture, and I would say mostly to protect your young ones, the education. Because the last generation of Americans, the older generations, they don't think that Hitler was right. They don't think that Osama bin Laden was probably right. They don't think that Palestinians are innocent and Israelis are the aggressors. It's quite clear to them, kind of who's the good guys and who's the bad guys. Or here comes their children today and they're just going on crazy and preventing Jews from entering universities. Anti-Semitism is rising in the sky. And that's because you don't protect your young ones, the education. Once the government have taken the education away from the home, if you don't hold the government accountable for how to raise your kids, you're opening a door here for a lot of trouble. One of the main things I was worried here in Germany when I had my kid go to the forest kindergarten, because it's a very hippie liberal kind of, it looks like it, at least from the outside. No, everybody's there is vegan and they love nature and, very hippie style. And I like that in some aspect, but I was super worried that it's going to be extremely woke and that they're going to be talking about all kind of sexual things and all kind of weird stuff. But I went there and I got involved very much, at least, with my language barrier, but I got to know many parents and I saw that actually they're very solid and based. But that's general in Germany. They're kind of based and solid. Even that's why woke is not succeeding too much here because Germans appreciate hard work and discipline. And the thing is with a lot of the woke people, they're just not hard workers, they're not disciplined. So it's hard for Germans to swallow that pill. It was very important for me. Also in school, I'm gonna make sure that they're not teaching my kid some crazy stuff. And that is literally the definition of your job as a parent, as a father, as a household, as a mother. It doesn't matter. That's your job to make sure that your kids are not getting radicalized to suddenly turn into Nazi Germany and their generation. Yeah.